What is it like as a young boy to grow up knowing your dad is in prison all your life? What experiences does it take to now believe that pain produces purpose? What kind of heart does it take to believe that your potential is developed in pain? How do you master your potential to become the best you, your prime? Grab your pen and paper. Today we journey through the life of a child of the incarcerated and learn how he used the pain to reach his prime.
Noises like that used to make me hit the deck. But now, I can keep going.
Don't get me wrong, I still don't love crowded places, but it's good to get out again.
Transitioning from the military can be tough, but many veterans are facing similar challenges. Visit MakeTheConnection.net to watch our stories and learn ways to create the story you want to live. Make the Connection.
Hello and welcome to the Clarion Call Show. I'm Janice Liggins, your host. Far too many black boys and girls have fathers who are in prison and they're raised by someone else. Sometimes the boy is fortunate enough to have a grandfather who steps in and plays the father role, making a tremendous positive impact. Such is the case with our guest today, Mr. Craig Glover Hines, teacher, author, and minister. Craig, thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad to have you here.
Yes, ma'am. I'm very grateful.
I said minister, but I want to clarify. You're not an ordained minister, but you're an author, and that book truly does minister. So we'll get into that a little bit later.
Sure.
But let's talk about you.
Yes, ma'am.
And coming up. How old were you? Your dad was incarcerated most of your life.
Yes, ma'am.
How old were you when you realized what it meant that your dad was in prison?
Well, I was 2 years old when he first went to prison. But at the age when I finally understood, I guess, where he actually was around the age of probably 6 years old. In between 2 and 6, it was conveyed to me that he was away at school.
Oh, wow.
To try to, keep my perspective or my mind in the right place as a little boy.
Sure.
But around 6 or 7 years old is when I understood that he was actually in prison.
What did that mean to you?
Wow, it meant a lot. It meant a lot, not necessarily the worst, because I always had hope that I would see him again. He would be free one day, and I didn't judge him even at that age.
Sure.
I surely just loved my dad.
He came home at 9 when you were about 9.
Yes, ma'am.
And was home, 3 years?
Yes.
What was that like?
That was fun. It was new, but it was quick.
Okay.
It was quick. We traveled together a bit. We went to a family reunion in North Carolina. He came to one of my championship basketball games.
Nice.
He was present, not just saying it, but he was definitely present in the physical. And those memories are ones that I definitely cherish because there aren't many in the physical.
Because he went back after 3 years, back into the system.
Correct.
Wow, and still there?
He's still there currently, yes.
Wow. Wow. What was it like the last time you saw your father, and when was it? How long ago?
The last time I saw my dad was in 2013. That prison, he's not currently there anymore.
Oh.
But I do remember I was with my uncle, my uncle Philip and my younger brother, Tyler, on my dad's side. We went, and it was always just refreshing, and you're happy when you first see him because you don't see him that often.
Right.
Like even now, being many, many years later from that point, I didn't know that would be the last time I saw him, or the gap of time would be this stretched out. But I was just very appreciative. You know what you're kind of getting yourself into, as far as the visiting room and things like that. But you're just grateful that you're even able to hug them and talk to them.
Wonderful, wonderful. You were raised mostly by your grandfather. You spent a lot of times with your grandfather. And what was it like? I mean, you looked to him kind of as your dad, or granddad or dad, mostly?
Both.
Yeah.
Surely.
Okay.
And my dad even understands that truly. Like, my grandfather was my everything. He was my best friend. He was my dad. He was my grandfather. He was my hero, truly. And he surely played a major, major part in everything that I am today.
What do you say was one of the most significant things he taught you or that you learned from him?
He always told me P's and Q's, right? Mind my P's and Q's, stay on my P's and Q's. And to him, that meant mind your manners, be on your best behavior, and do the right thing. And short and sweet, but it packs a lot.
Yes.
And that was like his I love you.
And you ended up naming your book Ps and Qs.
I did.
That's awesome. And we'll get to the book in just a minute. But you actually ended up going off to college.
Yes.
And you went to a Christian college.
I did.
Okay.
Yes. Went to Mount St. Mary's University in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Really funny how I ended up there. I'm so grateful for God's grace, even especially through academia. But I almost didn't graduate from high school, and I did not receive a lot of college acceptance letters.
Okay.
And Mount St. Mary's was one of my acceptance letters
Okay.
that my mom opened up when I was actually driving home. She asked me, did I mind if she opened it up? And I said, no, I really don't, because I had got so many denies, and that happened to be the one. And that school is dear to me. I met some of my greatest friends, even to this day, at that school. Yes, ma'am.
God had a purpose for you all the way back then.
He did.
There's a reason you got those other denials.
Sure.
What was your major?
I majored in communications with a minor in theology.
And so that was the place for you to go anyway. And your grandfather passed while you were in college.
He did, my senior year. Yes, ma'am.
What was that like?
It was very, very hard, to say the least. He got sick July of 2012. Had a mass on his brain, stroke, and his health declined pretty quickly. I definitely had a strong desire. I wanted him to be at my college graduation, but he passed November 30th, 2012.
Wow.
So it was sort of right in the middle, like before that midpoint of your last year. It was a hit, but at the same time, it was a major, major fuel behind me.
Yes, yeah, but congratulations to you for pushing on and graduating.
Thank you.
And then you're going on to become a teacher.
I do, yes, ma'am.
Yes, so how did that come about?
Well,
Where do you teach and what do you teach?
yes, ma'am. I teach at Bishop McNamara High School
Okay.
in Forestville, Maryland. That's also my alma mater. I graduated from Bishop McNamara High School in
Okay.
2009. So in 2014 was my first year there. And I first served as a campus ministry intern, Moreau Fellow. But I loved the school. I wanted to keep being there. So 2 years after that, I worked in the front office. And that fourth year, they happened to have an opening for a teaching position for freshman seminar. So I teach all ninth grade students.
Okay.
It's a class centered around character development, but it focuses on the fundamentals of education, not just the things that you would need in a classroom, but the things that you would surely need in life.
Well, that's awesome because, a lot of students don't get that. The soft skills kind of thing is what they call it. And, character drives everything. So it's
Yes.
awesome that you get to actually teach that.
Yes.
And then, you wrote a book, and the title of it is Ps and Qs, and you go a little bit deeper into that character part, even in the book. But what inspired you to even write a book?
I believe inspiration comes in many forms. So it's extremely hard to pinpoint one particular thing. First and foremost, it's definitely God inspired. It's faith fueled, it's faith based. But as I was journeying through, I always enjoy writing. I found it to be an art to be able to express, find out a way to let your heart speak. Even if you can't get it out of your mouth the way you want to, if you're able to get it down and actually reflect back on it, you can say, wow, somebody else truly had a part in you even being able to express in that way. But just as growing through school and writing, I was seeking some sort of fulfillment career-wise. So I ended up being led to a career coach. Her name is Dr. Lisa Banks. And she was helping me job-wise. And she said, have you ever considered writing a book? And, you know, I said, I have, you know, but it wasn't a concrete idea that I felt as if I was ready to execute head on. But people have hinted towards it and said, and man, you should do that, or, you know, offered it as a suggestion. But
Because of your story or because of your writing?
I would say just because of their interactions with me, or just both of those things. It wasn't just professionally, but internally. And Lent season of 2014, I just kind of just was raw with it and started writing.
Well, you mentioned that it was, you felt like it was an art, you know, for you to be able to write and express yourself. And I've read the book, and it is so poetic. It is, there are tons of little nuggets in the book that, you know, I have several quotes here, but I wanted to kind of quote the whole book. You know, it is very poetic, very inspiring. And so your dad, though, wrote the foreword in your book. I thought that was very interesting. How did you reach your dad? How did he come to write the foreword, and what does that mean to you?
Sure. So all throughout his incarceration, I've been so grateful to still have a connection with him, whether it be through the telephone or through email system that's now an option for communication. And our relationship has been what it can be with that reality. And in talking to him, you know, I first expressed the idea to him that I wanted to do that, and he was all for it, supportive and things like that. And we went further and things started to unfold with it. I asked him, I wanted him to be a part of it. Would he mind writing the introduction for it? You know, and at that point in time, it didn't even really, I wasn't quite sure where we were exactly going to go with it. You know, target audience, or, you know, how it was really going to unfold. But just to know that he was there and had it on his mind and on his heart to want to contribute in such a way, with that being his circumstance, I'm just forever grateful for it.
He's very proud of you. I mean, you can just see it in the foreword when you read it. He is just so proud of you and what he has been able to contribute to your life. And, you know, recognizing your granddad was there when he couldn't be, but I'm sure he's living vicariously through you. So you could tell he's very proud of you. Also, in the book, you set it up with a discussion. There's 2 characters in the book. Only 2 characters in the whole book, which is interesting in and of itself. One character's name is Potential, and the other character's name is Prime, which is very, I mean, that's a unique twist on it. So tell us about Potential and tell us about Prime and why you chose those names.
Sure. So believe it or not, earlier, January of 2017, I was working a night job, and it was an overnight job, and I was in a hotel in the hallway, and I actually wrote that material on my phone with introducing those characters. Wow. Because I feel like certainly everybody has potential, right? You hear it a lot. There's untapped potential here, there's untapped potential there, but I also feel like there's a greatest version of every human being inside of that potential, all right? And the dialogue between a person's potential and their prime is, I believe, the conversation that we have every single day. It's just, what are we deciding or choosing to listen to in that point in time?
You know what I wondered the whole time I was reading the book? Were you Potential and was your granddad Prime?
Well, it's interesting because there's like a transformation, like almost constant evolving between those 2 characters. But it's a spiritual one because in the scriptures where it says, where 2 or more gather, there I am in the midst. So that dialogue between them is a merge. It's between a person's constantly, their developing self and their developed self and the Spirit of the Lord. So
it's one person. It's like the future person talking to the younger person.
To a degree, I would say, yes.
There's a song I call Younger Me. Anyway. I thought it was very interesting the way you did that and the way the conversation continues to flow back and forth between the 2 of them. Potential asks Prime questions and then Prime answers those questions.
Sure.
What is the primary message you want readers to get?
Wow. I want them to understand and really believe that you can reach your greatest self, but only with God. You can do a lot in life, so much more than you probably could ever fathom. And when God is in the mix, there's a constant shocking that takes place every day, but not just at the moments throughout the day, because you'll be aligned with His assignment. And you're going to have frustration. You know, you're going to have success. You're going to have trials and triumphs, but you want to be in a place where it's all purposed and geared for God's glory. I feel like if you do it that way, you'll realize that the journey will always be worth it.
So, Craig, you were very transparent and vulnerable even in divulging a lot of your personal information in the book. Why?
I just feel like God has matured my understanding to a point where I have to understand. Well, I even mentioned it in the beginning of the book when the potential is praying, and he asked God to allow his transparency to transform him. And the objective is not to hide, but it's to understand grace or continue to just allow grace to have its perfect work in your life. And vulnerability is necessary a lot for people to feel as though they can relate to you, to understand you're not different, all right, in a way, or you're not out of reach, so to say. And I believe that everybody really has a story, and the truth is where the power is.
Wonderful. Truth is where the power is. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
you go. So what does it mean to understand the importance of competing with yourself? More on reaching your prime potential coming up. Stay tuned.
It's 3 p.m. For 50 million kids across America, school's out. And for a third of these kids, they're out on their own. Out with nowhere to go. Out with nothing to do. Out all afternoon when anything can happen. But every afternoon is a chance to change America's future. All you have to do is open the door. It's time to support the Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
We continue our conversation with Craig Glover Hines and his profound journey in recognizing, exercising, and utilizing his potential. So, Craig, in the book, you have several different topics that you talk about, and we're going to pick them apart one by one.
Sure.
Okay, we can't get to all of them because there are a lot, but I have a few that meant a lot to me. One of them is respect, and I'm going to read a little bit about a quote from the book.
Yes, ma'am.
Respect a person by listening to them. If you listen, they can reach you. If they reach you, they can teach you. If they teach you, they can learn from you. If they can learn from you, they will respect you. That's the full circle. So
Yes.
Tell us what that means to you. What do you want people to get from that?
Yes. From that, I just believe that respect is a fundamental to life. It's basic, it's simple, but it's extreme. And even in my profession now, being a teacher, I don't consider my sole responsibility to teach kids, but to reach kids. And if I'm able to do that, respect has to truly be in the mix, or at the core, so to say. And all of the interactions that you have in life with everything, not even just people, but experiences, places. If you respect wherever you are, who you're talking to, I think that keeps the door open for perspective.
And then you also mentioned that respect has to start with self.
It does.
Okay.
It most certainly does. Because oftentimes I believe that how we act is a reflection of what's going on here. So.
You also talk a lot in the book about pain. But you use pain pretty much as a platform to stand on, to build. And you say, there will be pain on your path when pursuing your prime. However, the greatest thing about hurting is healing. Excuse me. Embrace your pain and let it propel you deeper into your purpose.
Yes, ma'am.
It's so poetic. I mean, I'm reading that, but what does that mean to you?
I see pain as a positive. It does hurt sometimes naturally or internally, emotionally, and the list goes on, but I see pain as something where a lot of hope resides. And pain is one of those things that constantly sharpens a person's perspective. And when you're able to apply it, I guess, in its purposed way, that's when it's redefined for you. You know, you don't invite it, but you learn how to embrace it. To understand that it's not going to stop right there. You know, that's not the finish line. That's, in some cases, that's the starting line. You know.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And you even, okay, there's another one, and that is, well, you say potential is developed in pain.
Sure.
That's the refining part.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, okay.
ma'am.
And then you say mistakes is another topic. And you say, you make mistakes until you have fully understood the lesson the mistake was intended to teach.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
A little deep there, so let us hear.
Sure. Even in that sentence, that's I guess a more concentrated way to say what I was saying, how it's purposed. It isn't just happening to happen. It has a goal. One of my favorite books, even with having my own now, is The Alchemist. It's not even one of my favorites, it's hands down my favorite book. I love how Paulo Coelho was able to express himself. But he talks about a personal legend in the book, and something that I learned from that was not just understanding how to reach my own, but understanding how everything in life has its own personal legend, even natural things or things such as pain. And I like to look at pain as pain's personal legend is to help develop the legend in you. Yes, ma'am.
Poetic. Again, poetic. You also say, if you must look back, only look at how far God has brought you. Don't look back at don't wallow, don't soak in the misery of your mistakes. Instead, find the miracles in them.
Yes, ma'am. If you go through this life and are mistakeless, then I can't call it, or I wouldn't consider it to be a faith walk. A faith walk, you have to have faith in those great times and in those times where you simply messed up or you simply didn't do this right. Perfection is truly not my goal. It's constant progression. And I get better and progress, and I want the message to be that you get better and you progress. When you make a mistake, you learn what to do.
You learn from it.
To adjust and shift. Yes, ma'am.
And you also mentioned about suppose somebody went through life without mistakes, and everything was perfect. They never faltered. They never made a bad decision. They never did. They got the best job. They had, the best house. They had the best everything, and then something went wrong.
Yes, ma'am.
How would they handle that?
Yes.
So one mistake helps you build and grow to learn how to handle the bigger ones.
This is true.
Okay.
Totally true. Yes.
Okay. Losing is another topic you address. And you say losing is something you will experience in this life. Therefore, you must know how to handle defeat. I guess right to the point we were just making.
Yes.
So let me hear a little bit more about that losing from you and why it's important to learn from it.
Sure. One of my passions is sports. I love sports, big football fan, basketball fan. And as a big sports guy, you understand that you're going to lose in competition. But even transferring that perspective to life, you're seeing how you're not just going to lose there, but you're going to come across many things that you might not come out victorious in. But do you really consider it a loss if you were able to gain something from it? Did you get better? Are you able to go back the next time knowing exactly what I should do this time to give myself a better chance?
So you can see the benefit.
Correct.
When you see the benefit, you'll realize the loss even had a purpose.
Truly.
Wow. You also say life will appear to be pulling you down while God is steadily pulling you up.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
So keep your eyes on him, huh?
You have to, because it's not easy. It's not something that I feel like even as you grow, you just figure out how to adjust or just train your mind or your heart in a way where you understand that this is truly working out for my good, regardless of this outcome here. I love God, and therefore, if that's the case, everything has to be tailored in a way to the details where it's working out for my good. You know, in the midst of all of the frustration, all of anything that could be in that pot, you know, it's working for you.
Well, he does say all things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose.
Amen.
So, and then you say the purpose of frustration and pain is to drive you closer. Well, let's say it again. The purpose of frustration and pain is to drive you closer to fulfilling yours.
Yes. That speaks to that personal legend reference. In the book where I've referenced that's really building on what Paulo Coelho mentioned in The Alchemist about a personal legend. And I just believe that everything that comes into your life, it is really for a grand purpose. You know, it can sound redundant, but when you really believe that, you know that this is here on purpose to help you go further into yours, regardless of what that looks like.
You talked then, another topic is afflictions. And you didn't necessarily name these topics like this. I just saw a pattern as I was reading and put some of them together in these categories. In the midst of your greatest blessing, God will test you so that you stay close to him while you reap.
I believe that the higher God carries you, that's the more humble you ought to be. You should definitely, because all blessings come from him. And afflictions are for your advancement. They're for you to get closer to God. So you definitely shouldn't flee if things are bad, and you certainly shouldn't flee when things get better.
You say light afflictions are common to heavy anointings. So the bigger the call, the bigger the burden, huh?
Yes, I would say so. It's part of the territory. It comes with it, I would say. Yes.
And then you said that you should have questions in the mirror. Not the physical mirror, but basically the mirror of your soul. And you said the purpose of a question is to meet the truth. And the best question to what we can ask are the question we ask ourselves. What do you mean by that?
Yes, ma'am. So, truthfully, Mr. Prime and Potential, it's revealed at the end of the book, they're the same person. And the only reason that they were able to have that conversation is because God was there in between that connection. And when I understood that writing it, all right, I had to say, you know, this was so much deeper than intellect. You know, it was spirit-led. And realizing that, you're able to see, okay, you know, you just able to reflect back on it. You're saying, you know, this was deeper than just a 1 + 1 or ABC. It came from a different place. And that's not only what I'm able to apply to the text, but I see that more common in just my day-to-day interaction with life itself.
I am exceptionally impressed with the book. I am so thankful to have you on the show. I appreciate your coming. I love the book. I hope everybody gets the book and reads the book. Okay? Thanks, Craig.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Each of us is born with purpose on this earth, and we are all born with potential to reach that purpose, to become your greater self. But what can you do to maximize your potential? The Clarion Call and Craig Glover Hines are partnering to deliver a series of discovery sessions designed to work directly with you to recognize, exercise, and utilize your potential to become your greatest self. Please go to our website and sign up for our newsletter to receive more information and sign up for the discovery sessions coming soon. That's it for now. We hope you enjoyed the show. Join us next time, won't you, for the Clarion Call. Until then, I'm Janice Liggins. Blessings to you.